back from Harfield. 1-0 Burnley. Scott Harfield. He's been threatening that recently. And all the Burnley players run to the Darwin end. Oh, what a goal! What a goal from Robbie Blake! Burnley's first goal in the Premier League is something very, very special.
Wade Elliott has that change of pace and he's got away from Montgomery. It's the path of McCann and the follow-up finds the net. What a strike from Wade Elliott! A bolt from the claret and blue.
Oh, goodness me! What a goal from Patterson! If that is to be the one that takes them to Wembley, you cannot argue with that. Pure quality.
Here goes Mike Conroy. Still time for a winner, maybe. John Francis! They came to York in their thousands. They're going home as champions.
I mean, if there's any justice in the world, Burnley would surely score from this corner. Swung right in there. Ball in there. Yeah! Michael Keane! Oh, that's justice! That is justice at the Amex Stadium. Burnley are level and deserve to be.
Hello everyone and welcome along to the latest episode of the Turfcast podcast pre-game show with me, Joe Revan, ahead of this weekend's clash against Wigan Athletic at Turf Moor. It's another team down there, another team fighting for their lives. Last couple of games, Blackpool struggled, obviously, finished 0-0. Huddersfield didn't struggle, won 4-0. So somewhere in between would be nice. 2-0, I'd take that right now. But yeah, we struggled against Blackpool, didn't we? I'll just quickly go over that again. I know I've done a 60-second review in the full-time show, but I always like to look back at it just before the pre-game show, just so we can all remind ourselves of how we played. But yeah, it wasn't the Burnley that we know from this season. I know a lot of people are saying, well, we could have easily won. Their goalkeeper had a decent game, and he did. You're not wrong. Especially the save from Teller late in the second half. It was a very good save. But the Burnley of all would have won that game, I think, quite comfortably. Obviously, Brownhill's injury didn't help. Martson being out didn't help. Picking up a few injuries now, and that is a little worry for me. We'll see. Obviously, I'm recording this on Wednesday, so we'll see where we're at with injuries in the press conference with Vincent Kompany and a player on Thursday. Hopefully, Martson's back. Hopefully, Brownhill's isn't as bad as it first feared, but from what I'm seeing on Twitter, it's looking like he may be out for a month, but don't take that from me. I don't know any like inside knowledge. That's just something I've seen on Twitter. But yeah, I do think the injuries are catching up with us a little bit, and I think the games are catching up with us a little bit. It were like a lot of Saturday, Wednesday, Saturday, Tuesday, Saturday, Wednesday, wasn't it? Thankfully, we've had a week off this week, whereas Wigan haven't. They played last night against Birmingham, I think it was. And no, I'm wrong. Barry's shaking his head. I can't remember who it is. We'll ask Barry in a second. I've got a Wigan fan waiting. Who was it? West Brom. It was West Brom, weren't it? Barry's nodding his head. There we go, yeah. And they got beat, but they only got beat 1-0. And just looking at some of the results of Wigan recently, they do look a bit more solid than what they did earlier in the season. Of course, I think our biggest win of the season this season is at Wigan, 5-1. I know we beat Huddersfield 4-0 as well, so it's the same gap. But yeah, I was at the DD Stadium that day. We were fantastic. We were just lethal, absolutely lethal. Every attack turned into a goal. But yeah, we're going to need to play better than we did against Blackpool. I just don't think we moved the ball quick enough. It felt a bit like the Fleetwood game, but I think that's what it is at the minute. I think teams are just going to come up against us, sit back, and then say, break us down if you can. Admittedly, Blackpool in the last 5 minutes did counter-attack quite well and quite regularly, but ultimately it didn't get a goal. They didn't get a goal out of it, is what I'm trying to say. But yeah, all they wanted us to do was stick 2 backs of 4 at the back and say, break us down, and we couldn't do that. Fleetwood did the same, and we nearly couldn't do it against them. Thankfully, we brought them down in the 85th minute, whatever it was, and got our place in the quarterfinal of the FA Cup, which I've got tickets for. Looking forward to that. It's going to be my little boy's first ever away game. I don't know if I'm going to regret that yet. He's only been on the turf a couple of times, and once I nearly had to take him home early because we were crying. So we'll see how we get on with that one. But enough of that chat. Let's bring Barry in. It's, of course, Burnley versus Wigan, and this is Barrett from the Progress with Unity Wigan Athletic podcast. How you doing, mate?
I'm doing all right, thank you.
Yes, so let's talk. Yeah, I'm good, thank you. Let's talk about your season then, if I may. Apologies if this brings any sort of like negative thoughts into your head about football. But yeah, bottom of the table at the minute. You do look stronger. I know we've just been talking off air, but you can tell me what you tell everyone what you're just telling me. Like I'm looking at your results at the minute. I'll just quickly get them back up on my screen. So your recent results are so last night lost against West Brom, but only 1-0. Then you drew with Birmingham 1-1, lost at Preston 2-1. Then 0-0 against Norwich, which it's not a terrible result. 1-1 down at Bristol City, not terrible. Beat Huddersfield, drew at Blackburn. So they're looking like, better results than what they were earlier in the season. So are you a little bit stronger at the minute under Maloney?
Yeah, well, all those results have come under Sean Maloney, so it's not a new manager bounce. I think he's put a belief into the club that wasn't there under Kolo Toure. There's two ways of looking at this. I mean, personally, I feel we got relegated when we sacked Richardson in November because we didn't. I mean, if you're going to sack a manager, you've got to have at that time. We was falling down the table. You've got to bring somebody in who knows what they're doing. And we brought somebody in who hadn't a clue, and it went from bad to worse. And then also, you mentioned the Preston game. If you're going to pinpoint any result in a season that's done you, for me, that'll be the one. We was 1-0 up. Preston were shocking half-time. All the fans very fearful about their own form. We know what they've been like at home. And for some bizarre reason, 4 minutes into the second half, Tom Bramall, the Premier League referee, pointed to the penalty spot. I mean, I've shown it to neutrals. Preston fans have contacted me. Never, ever, ever a penalty. Ever. Never a penalty. And Daniel Johnson took it, who hadn't scored a goal in 11 months, put it in the back of the net. Our heads went down. They scored again 3 minutes later because we was all over the place. We lose the game 2-1, which I believe if we hadn't got that penalty, we would have won that. And then you're going from strength to strength. So it's really set us back. And like you said, we played Birmingham last week, and they hit the post 3 times. It was 1 apiece, and Birmingham weren't a good side by any stretch. So it looked like it's been knocked out. And then last night we played West Brom away. And again, West Brom are not electric. I mean, we drew with them down here 1 apiece, and we should have beat them. And they hit the post 3 times. So, it didn't really tell the proper story, that scoreline last night.
Yeah, fair enough. So hopefully if we are a little bit, we have a shooting boots on, we might be able to get a couple of goals. We'll see how that goes on. I mentioned there earlier, in fact, no, before I get onto that, I do want to talk about your managers. Obviously, you can tell the story of a turbulent season when you've had 3 different managers. Obviously, Richardson, Toure, and Maloney. What went wrong? Because you said, I remember when we played you at the DW, as you've just told me on your own podcast, you were actually unbeaten when we played you. Obviously, we then won the game comfortably. Did it go wrong from there? Is it kind of sort of like that result knocked the stuffing out of you, then it went wrong? Like, what went wrong under the first manager?
Nothing really. We just got found out a little bit because we've come up as League One champions, full of confidence. Last season, we were too strong for the sides in League One. That's we sort of bullied our way to the title. But you're in a different division, better quality players, so you have to be a little bit cuter, you have to be a little bit faster. You have to bring in 1 or 2 quality players. We didn't recruit at all in the summer. Ryan Niambe and Nathan Broadhead were the only 2 players who came in and featured on a regular basis. One was a right back, and the other lad, Nathan Broadhead, has been sold down to Ipswich back in League One. So that shows the sort of quality that we brought in. And we got found out a little bit, but we're still battling. I mean, you were the only side that really did a job on us. We was in every game. We were very difficult to beat. But we went to Coventry and on a Wednesday night, and we lost 2-0. I mean, that wasn't no disgrace in that because Jokerit's up front for Coventry. I mean, he run the game, and he's a Premier League striker in all but name. But there was the usual Twitter storm that followed, and get rid of this manager, he's clueless, all this sort of stuff going on, and it wasn't that. And unfortunately, we have new owners and they're not experienced, and they reacted and sacked Liam Richardson. So we found ourselves without a manager. And I thought to myself, well, the reason they give for sacking Richardson was we don't want to get relegated. We want to, we're frightened of losing our place in the Championship. So we've had to make a decision to get rid and bring somebody else in. So you're thinking, fair enough. Then if they're going to do that, who's this experienced manager they're going to bring in? And Chris Wilder was interviewed. Mick McCarthy was interviewed. Not that I'd want Mick McCarthy by any stretch. Neil Critchley was interviewed. Not that I wanted Neil Critchley either. Rob Edwards was interviewed. But you've got a crop of experienced managers there who's sort of done okay. And then straight out of left field comes Kolo Toure. And we're like, who? Well, we know who he is.
Yeah.
We know who he is. He was a centre half for City, Liverpool, and Arsenal. But as a coach, as a manager, I didn't know where he'd been and what his history was until you read up on him. And he brought in two assistants. He brought in a fellow called Kevin Betsy, who'd been Crawley Town manager for 4 weeks and got sacked. And the rest of the time, he'd been working with the kids at England. When I say kids, I mean under 15s and 16s. And he brought in this other guy from Leicester City who'd got his coaching certificates through a community programme. He'd not even been a professional footballer. He'd not been in the game. He was only 27. And he was coaching under 14s in schools. So suddenly, you're bringing these in, and it was a recipe for disaster, and that's exactly what happened. We were awful. We lost 3 games on the trot, 4-1. Now, after the first game, they don't make any changes. That, for me, tells me straight away this manager is useless, because I can take it happening once, but then you change your system around. But they didn't 3 times, and they weren't great. So, all right, Middlesbrough, apart from Burnley, Middlesbrough is the best side I've seen. But Sunderland, I mean, come on, Sunderland, and Hull City as well. So they're not like teams right at the top of the table. But on the trot, 4-1, 4-1, 4-1. So the writing was on the wall for Toure from week 1, really. It's the worst appointment in our history, I think, apart from Warren Joyce.
Why were you so bad under Toure then? Like, what were you like on the pitch? Were you just no plan, just couldn't defend, couldn't score, or bit of everything?
Wide open. We were wide open. It was keep the ball at the back, knock it around, dribble it out. You're talking to lads here. Curtis Tilt, I don't know if you remember Curtis Tilt. He's not been playing recently. He's 6'3", 6'4", donkey of a centre half. Plays with his heart. That's where his attributes are. His passion for the club, not his his skills on not his Franz Beckenbauer imitations on the floor, And we were getting found out. We were losing possession on the edge of our own box, and teams were capitalising and scoring goals off it. Yeah. But we were doing the same thing week in, week out. Attacking, we were attacking with one player. There were no bodies in the box. We couldn't score and we couldn't defend. So we end up losing games. I think the majority of our goals were coming from set pieces, the ones that we did get, So I think that tells you a lot about your team as well. You've got no creative quality if you're scoring all your goals from set pieces, because there's nothing happening during the course of the game. And that's how we were.
Yeah, that's pretty much us on the dice, really. Well, the set piece thing, not the wide open thing. That's complete opposite. But the lack of creativity and the most goals coming from set pieces. It's interesting you talked about there playing it out from the back, because it seems to be the correct, and using for those listed on the podcast, inverted commas, correct way of playing football these days. Burnley do it, but we've only really been caught out once this season by doing it, and that was a bit of a debate, a bit of a bad pass from Joric, and a bit of a bad touch from Cullen, and then Blackpool scored. It's always Blackpool. But you need the right players to do it, and I think we've brought in the right players to be able to do that. Bayer, as you just said there, you mentioned Beckenbauer. Our nickname for Bayer is Beck and Bayer, because he plays like that. It can come out with the ball, and he's German, so that helps. But it comes out with the ball. He beats the press, and he's fantastic on the ball. Taylor Harewood-Bellis, I get shouted at for calling him Taylor Harewood-Bellis. Taylor Harwood-Bellis. He can do it as well. He's currently injured at the minute, though, and I don't think we'll see much of him at the minute. And a new signing, Ekdal. He came in January. He can do it as well. So you need certain types of players, because we play like that, like I said, but we have the players to be able to do it. But we had to sign new players to do that. I don't think Tarky and Ben Mee are suited playing like that. Obviously, manager now then, Sean Maloney. What's the difference between the Wigan side under Toure and Richardson compared to the Wigan side now?
Well, it was set up differently for a start at the back. Sean Maloney's playing the ball out from the back as well, but it's not kamikaze football. I mean, there is a difference in there between playing the ball out and being kamikaze on the ball. So he's changed that round. We are struggling a little bit. I've got to mention this. We're struggling a little bit for defenders. We signed Martin Kelly on loan from West Brom. Played away at Blackburn for us. Absolutely outstanding. He played like a Premier League footballer. Got man of the match. Unfortunately, in the dying moments, he twisted his knee and done his ACL. So he's out now for a year. With Jack Watmore, who struggled all season. He's our Bobby Moore, great centre half. Come up, with us last season. Player of a year last year. Fantastic player. He's just got injured. So centre half out. Jason Kerr, who's a quality centre half, lacks a bit of pace, but he's quality. He's done his ACL. So we're really struggling at centre back. We brought in Stephen Corker, but he doesn't seem up to speed, to be honest. So he's been on the bench for most of the games. We've got two young lads playing at the back now. We've got Charlie Hughes, come through the ranks, been with us since he was 13. He's 19 years of age, come up from the youth teams, playing in the youth team earlier this season. Staked his claim, took his chance really well, and we've got a young guy, 20-year-old from Arsenal, Rekic. He was on loan somewhere in Holland. He's Dutch, Omar Rekic, and total lack of experience between the pair of them. So we're struggling a bit, and we've got a full-back playing the other of the three defenders at the back, the three centre backs. So we've got two young kids and a full-back playing as three centre halves, but they're looking all right. They're not taking like the chances. They're knocking the ball about between themselves, but getting rid when they need to get rid. So we're not getting caught out as much. Up front, we're playing with three. We play with the three, one through the middle, two supporting, floating about. Unfortunately, Callum Lang's been out for a couple of games, so we've really missed him. But we've got Sinane, we got him on loan from Norwich. He was at Huddersfield last season, had a good season with Huddersfield. Not quite at the heights. There's no end product to him at the moment, so he's quite busy on the ball quite a lot, but tends to go down blind alleys. Ashley Fletcher, we've got him playing up as the lead guy up front. Scored 2 goals in 5 games now, but them's the only 2 goals he scored all season. So he's come in, and you need him to be scored in double figures really, and he's nowhere near that. Will Keane's hit a bit of a dry spell, and he's been in and out of the team recently as well. So he plays number 10, but it's we're playing with wing backs, fast moving. If you cast your mind back to when Roberto Martinez was the manager at Wigan Athletic, and what he was like at Everton, and what he was like with Belgium, we're exactly the same as that. That's how we set up, and that's how we go into games, and that's how we try and play that sort of system.
Yeah, interesting. It's interesting to hear the makeshift defence, because I'm there thinking you've got 2 inexperienced young lads there. How they're going to do against the likes of Ashley Barnes, who will try and wind them up, who will try and get a few digs in there, and then we'll just when you think, you get a bit of respite, you've got Teller running past you on the wing and Zaruri running past you on another wing. So it's going to be interesting with that. We do seem like we're at the stage of the season where a lot of teams are struggling with injuries. Burnley, for example, I've just mentioned Martson. Brownhill's probably going to be out. Edward Bellis is out. Jay Rodriguez is out. Benson is out. And they're all first-team players. So, we've got us issues as well. So it's going to be interesting to see how I think both teams line up on Saturday. And I know I've mentioned it already, and this will be the last time I do mention the league table. But you're currently bottom. And you three at the bottom, you've got yourselves, Blackpool and Huddersfield, all currently on the same points, all on 32. So you are all currently 6 points adrift of Cardiff, who won on Saturday, and that was probably a bit of a blow for you three, obviously beating Bristol City, I think it was. Then you've got QPR, who were top at one point. They are in absolute freefall on 39, then Birmingham on 39, Rotherham on 40. Then you've got your Swanseas and your Stokes and Readings, who are on 43 and 44 respectively, probably a little bit too high. Do you think you can get out of it, or do you think you are done?
The bottom 3 are relegated, I'd say, without any shadow of a doubt. If you think about the points that you will probably need to stay up, I mean, Cardiff, are they going to get another 7 points in the final 11 games? You'd think so, wouldn't you? Because if it's a bit of form, so that takes them to 45. So then we've got to, all 3 of us down there have got to pick 13 points up. when we've picked 32 out from 35 games. I mean, it's a massive ask. It's massive.
Yeah.
And I just don't think any of those clubs have got it in them. A Blackpool don't seem to be able to score. Huddersfield are shocking. They're the worst side I've seen, apart from us, and we're shocking. I mean, we might pick a couple of wins up here and there. We've got QPR after the international break. We've got Rotherham last game of the season, but I wouldn't like to think I'm going into that last game needing something against Rotherham because they're just a team of battlers, aren't they? They're big, they're strong. They'll kick you off the pitch if they need to. So you don't want to be going into that game like that. I think the writing's on the wall for the bottom three, and if I'm being honest with you, I'm looking ahead to next season and thinking, can we bounce straight back again? Because we are that yo-yo team now. We are what Rotherham used to be. We are League One Championship, League One Championship. So can we do it? That's where I'm looking, and it pains me to say that, really. But I just wanted a season where we could hold our own up, in this division, and without having any heart attacks, because that's what it is. I mean, like you're saying about Burnley now, you're comfortably promoted, but you're talking like you're having a bit of a wobble with a goalless draw away at Blackpool. So you know what the pressure's like when you just got to get over that line, and it's the same last season for us when we was very close to nicking the title. It got hairy, and this season's been dreadful. So I just want a season where I can enjoy my football. We're mid-table, but I'd sooner that be in the Championship than in League One.
Yeah, definitely. Fair enough. You mentioned you reeled out some players earlier and told me who would potentially be playing where in your centre backs, in your forwards. Have you got any players that we should be looking out for that could probably hurt us? Who's most likely to hurt us on Saturday, if anyone is?
Well, I mentioned Charlie Hughes. He's a good lad to look at because he's 19. And it's his first season. He's played about 8 games now, and he's really good. It tends to tire late in games, and it's sloppy passes. And you say there about Ashley Barnes, he'll stand up to Ashley Barnes. He'll have that physical battle with him at 19, and he's about 6'2", and he's a big lad, and he'll relish that. So I've no worries there. So he's one just to have a look at because he's a bit of quality about him. And then we've got Tello Asgard, he's got his hair in a bun, and he's a bit flash. He's very good on the ball. He's only 20. He's one for the future. Again, come through our academy, the Norwegian Scouser. His mum and dad are Norwegian, but he's over here because they play in the Liverpool Philharmonic Orchestra. So that's what he's doing over in England. But he is a very talented player, and we've got high hopes for him for the future. And Lange, if Lange's fit for Saturday, he'll just run at you. This is what we need. We need somebody head down, and prepared to turn and drive into the box. So they'll be the 3 for me that I pick out.
Yeah, fair enough. Let's look at the game then, the actual game itself. Obviously, you'll be seeing it as a tough game. We've just played 2 teams down there, as I've said earlier in the intro. One went very well for us, one didn't go as well for us. How are you expecting to set up against us? Do you think you'll look at how Blackpool have done it and just sit behind the ball, or do you think you'll continue doing what you've been doing for the last few games?
I think we'll play the way we have been, which is trying to play tight, press, play tight, get possession. With 72% possession against Birmingham, I think we're about 60% against Preston. Last night we was in the high 40s, but we like to be on the ball, because if we've got it, you've not got it. So I think that's the philosophy behind that. We don't tend to take any risks. We're not brave. We don't, we're not looking to throw loads of men into the box, which, to be honest with you, we should be doing because we need wins. That's the only thing that get us out of this mess, and you're not going to get them, being nervous and cautious. But obviously, we're coming up against a class side, a Premier League side, so we're going to have to be a little bit within ourselves. We're going to have to battle, and I don't think he'll change the formation, and we'll carry on playing the way we have. And so, like you said there before about the first hour being pivotal, but I don't think we'll going over without conceding, if I'm being perfectly honest. I can see you being 2 up by half-time.
Yeah, well, to be honest, I went into the Huddersfield game with Warnock being freshly appointed there, thinking, it's going to be tight. Warnock will make it a tight game. He'll make it a slog. It's going to be 0-0 at half-time. I think we were 3-0 up after about 25 minutes. And then we just took his foot off the gas. But then I went into the Blackpool game thinking, we'll beat these. They're poor. Look at how well we played against Huddersfield. And then that was the slog. Mick McCarthy turned that into the slog. I think having listened to your centre-back issues, I think we might be able to capitalise on that. I do still think we'll have enough. As I said on your show, I do worry that at the minute injuries are catching up with us, and a lot of games, the amount of games that we've played recently is catching up with us. But the fact that we just had a week off and you haven't, I think will play into our hands. So my prediction is going to be 2-0. I think we'll win 2-0. What about you, Barry? What are you predicting?
I think this could be the game where we fall apart, and it wouldn't surprise me if it was 1-0. It wouldn't surprise me if it were 5-0, if I'm being honest. Anywhere in between that. I can't see us scoring because, like I said, we're not brave enough to make that movement into the box. I'll go for a mediocre 3-0.
Yeah, well, I'm sure every Burnley fan would take it. I'd take that, especially if Sheffield United struggle this weekend as well, as do Middlesbrough. If we get the gap to 20 points, that's a nice cushion. That'll stop these Burnley fans, because I couldn't believe it. We drew against Blackpool, and I've been saying pretty much since end of January that we're up. And then all of a sudden people are like, Middlesbrough have won. Now it's only 17 points when it was 19 or whatever it is. I was like, why are people even looking at that gap, really? Like, I worked with a Burnley fan who was on shift with me last night, and he was sort of like saying, we need to beat Wigan on Saturday. We need to get back on track for promotion. If we don't win on Saturday, I'm really worried for us. I'm like, buddy, we're 17 points clear. Like, we are not. It's not going to slip. The only thing that may potentially slip is the title. But even now, I'm not worried about Sheffield United at all. Like the way that they're playing compared to us, and I never sound this confident. The people who've been listening to this podcast for the last 3 years will know I would sit on the fence if I could. I would normally say, 1-1, but we're just so good at the minute. We're just so good. We are going to go up and we are going to win the league. And I've said it a million times. You can clip it and share it. We're going to win the league.
The last time we came to was 2014, and we lost 2-0, and you went up that season, if you remember.
Yes, I do remember. Yeah, I remember that.
Vokes were playing for you back then.
Was it Easter Monday?
Yeah, I think it was. It was April, wasn't it? Was it Sam Vokes?
Yeah, Sam Vokes with a header.
Yeah.
Yeah, legend Sam.
Oh, great player. Great player. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's at Sam. Where's he now? Wickham. Is
he still at Wickham? He was. Yeah. He left us, went to Stoke. Didn't do well at Stoke, but I think at Wickham he's kind of found his sort of like new level. I would say League One. Don't think they're doing that well this year, though, are they? Normally they do quite well in that league.
They're about 8th, I think.
Oh, are they? Right.
I thought
they were a bit further down. If I'll be honest with you.
I'm keeping my eye on League One now at the moment for obvious reasons.
Yeah, I can imagine. But Barry, that's it for me. Thank you very much for coming on the show. It's been absolutely. It's always a good chat with you, Barry. I enjoy it. It's a shame that you're probably going to go down. I'll say the same to you that I said to the Blackpool fan at the week. If we were staying in the Championship, I would want all three of the teams currently in the bottom three to stay up, simply because it's a close away day. Like, I don't want you boys to go down if we were in the Championship and then somebody like Plymouth come up. It's and Plymouth and Ipswich, I think they're both fighting for it. Like, I don't want that. I just mean it's not going to affect me because I'm going to be in the Prem. But if I wasn't, I would want all three to stay up. Maybe not Blackpool if I'm going to be pushed into a decision. But definitely yourselves and Huddersfield. But it's a shame. But you never know. Like you said, we might get each other in the cup. You could bounce back straight away. Fingers crossed we don't go the other way and bounce back, but you never know. But do you want to let everyone know where they can find you and your shows and your podcasts? Yeah,
we're on all your podcast providers. Probably the best place to catch us is on Twitter. We usually out on Wednesday, but because we've got a fans forum on Wednesday this week, we're going to be out Thursday evening, roughly 9:30 to 10 o'clock, when it'll be hitting the airwaves.
Excellent, Barry. Well, thank you very much for joining us. Yeah. Sorry, go on.
At PWU Podcast. That's where we are.
Well, make sure to check out the podcast because, as Barry says, I'll be there on Thursday. So be sure to check it out and give them a like if you want some Wigan Athletic content. But thank you very much for coming on the show, Barry. It's been a pleasure. And we'll see you soon, hopefully.
Yep. Cheers, Joe. And best of luck next season in the Premier League.
Thank you, Barry. Appreciate that. Cheers, mate.